So here's part 7 of the breakdown of the F1 show special, Abu Dhabi 1 month on, the hour 12-minute long programme that Sky Sports F1 created a month after the Abu Dhabi fix to try to validate to the world what took place. They presented to us all these so-called experts, these people that are employed by the sport of Formula One, the contracted broadcaster, those being former F1 drivers and these people that are supposed to have expertise, the commentators, and they put them in front of us to try to provide validation or display that, it's also concerning and it's also confusing and what's going on here and who's to blame for this. And it's all a load of rubbish. It's all there to point people in wrong directions here, there, and everywhere, cause further conflict, cause for so-called debate in the comments section of online social media. And all of the time, they do not focus on the crux of the matter. They don't focus on the corruption that they themselves are party to. They presented it. They were paid to present it real time. Now they're claiming it's this, it's that, it's the other. Could it have been this? Could it have been that? Could it have been the other? Nobody knows. We need to do this in future. We need to make sure it's all a load of rubbish. So please take the time to look at the other episodes that I've done. Episode 4, part 4 of this, it's about 57 minutes long, but it's well worth watching because there's some key things in there. But they've all got something that's really important. So number 7, here we go. We've got Lazenby, the anchorman, introducing Crofty, who's now joined the conversation. He's replaced Johnny Herbert. And as we go through this, some of these will be replaced with the other faces that pop into view. Here we go.
Subsequently, it seems to have been a bit of an information vacuum from the FIA.
Well, the silence, Simon, is quite deafening from the FIA at the moment. We know that the formal part of the inquiry is underway. Craig Slater told us all about that yesterday, but we haven't been presented with much information. It's fine to have a misunderstanding, but where is the clarity here? I've been ringing as many people as I possibly can to try and find out exactly what's happening. What I can tell you is that Michael Massey is still very much in a job and still working in his role, responsible for the sporting side of the single-seater series at the FIA control. That's not just Formula One. Nicholas Tombassis has a role as the technical directive, as it were, on that single-seater side, but they are now both managed in terms of a line manager by a man called Peter Beyer. He is the Secretary General for Motorsport at the FIA, and he is.
Isn't he the guy that's in charge of AlphaTauri or Team RB or whatever that is now? There's some strange links that go on in this sport.
Assumed a role almost as an F1 commissioner. This was actually proposed and accepted by the World Motorsport Council before the race in Abu Dhabi. So what has happened is that Michael Massey and Nicholas Tombassis.
So these are arrangements that were proposed before Abu Dhabi. Right, okay. And the World Motorsport Council, who is entirely corrupt, they've accepted it. Thanks for that.
It's now have someone that they report into that can take a much keener interest in what is going on and give them help and support and guidance. That was, as I say, proposed and accepted before Abu Dhabi. That is not as a consequence of the Abu Dhabi race. And it certainly isn't a situation at the moment that Michael Massey is out of a job, as has been speculated quite a bit on social media this week.
So all that you've just said is irrelevant, okay? Because what this programme is there for is to analyse what took place in Abu Dhabi, what was exactly wrong about it, and what is being done about it. You've just said, there's now arrangements where there's a bit of a restructure, but that was already agreed before Abu Dhabi. So that's irrelevant then, isn't it? And does that address the fact that you've already got at least 10 people in FIA race control? Massey broke the rules with God knows who else there in with him, because you've not showed us the footage of that. At the start of this programme, you see the clip where they've got cameras in race control. And that's never been showed to the world. What actually took place in those last 5 laps in that FIA race control.
And mistakes were made. I think the FIA accept that. But I think what I'd like to see at the moment.
Do you accept that, Crofty? Do you accept that you and Brundle were lying about the rules of the sport in those last 5 laps of the Grand Prix? Do you accept that the interjected messages from F1 TV were actually false and invalid. When they were saying, when they played to the world the message about Red Bull being hard done by, it being a typical decision that they weren't letting the lapped cars through, because it's not typical, because that hasn't happened since 2012, right? I'm not surprised. It's classic. Yeah? That message that F1 TV chose for the world to hear, when all of the time that conversation was going on, and even at this point in time when they broadcast it to the world, there were men on track working at that corner, being the reason that they weren't going to be released, because it wasn't safe to release lapped cars. But F1 TV present the narrative that it's all there to thwart Red Bull. And then when we get onto lap 57, and they say, Martin there says, I think the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap, and we will have one racing lap, and that's not allowed to happen. But yes, they'll all get blue flags, won't they, Crofty? They'll all get blue flags. Do-do-do. Christian to Michael, I won't be getting these lap cars out of the way. Well, Christian, it's lap 57 of this race. Even if I release the lapped cars on lap 57, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap, dickhead. Read 48.12. It's now a safety car finish. That's how the message should have gone, right? But the one that did happen, where Michael Massey said, Christian, I'm trying to deal with this with this incident. You only need one racing lap. F1 TV decided to play the world that message on lap 57, when at that stage the only thing that was possible was a safety car finish. The FIA acknowledged mistakes were made. Well, those mistakes aren't the responsibility of the FIA, are they? Those mistakes are the responsibility of F1 TV and Sky Sports F1, two separate entities, all making the mistake that is building to Massey's mistake. Are different parties conspiring to achieve the outcome? Oh no, that's not possible, is it? That would be just a conspiracy theory. Oh, crazy shit. Whoever's proposing that people are conspiring, they must be crazy. They're just conspiracy theorists.
To help everybody understand fully, is that report that the FIA say was presented in the immediate aftermath of the Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi. I'd like to see that presentation, that report, from that statement that Jean-Todt put out, made available to the wider public.
Yep, let's have a look.
We're trying to help people piece together exactly what happened in Abu Dhabi.
You're not though, are you, Crofty? Don't claim that you're doing something that you're not doing. You're purposefully trying to mislead people, disorientate people, fuel the online conflict. That's purposefully what you're doing, because you're not addressing the crux of the matter, and you're throwing in there different options, different variables that are insignificant, irrelevant, but you're talking about them, which direct people to talk about them, and they're irrelevant. That's what you're doing. Fueling the online conflict, fueling F1 trending in social media, increasing the value of the asset, the sport.
Dhabi. Well, the FIA, come on, help us as fans and observers, and help everybody understand fully, because you...
How about you, the contracted broadcaster, help us as fans understand? Because you haven't done that, have you? Ever. You've lied about the rules of the sport. You've never exposed what the safety car rules are and why they are what they are. Instead, the safety car is deployed, and you, as the experts and commentators of the sport that are there to help the fans understand, which is what you've just said, Crofty, right? What you do is go, safety car. What's going to happen now? Anything can happen. Are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? Will they let the lap cars through? How long will they wait? Because they don't have to, but that's normally on a wet day. All lies. All lies. And that is what you do. That is what you do. Why? As two former racing drivers on the right-hand side of the screen, and Crofty, this guy that's been shouting about the sport for over 10 years, can't calmly say to the fans of the sport, if there is an incident in a Grand Prix which constitutes a risk, a hazard, a safety issue, and the race director chooses to deal with that safety issue by deploying the safety car, it neutralises racing. All of the advantages that have been built up prior to the deployment of that safety car are nullified. The leader will bunch behind the safety car, all of the other cars will bunch up behind it. They will be in the correct race order. If at the time of the deployment or within the first 2 laps of deployment, any of those cars are lapped, then before racing resumes, those lapped cars get released and are given a further lap of that safety car with which to try and make it around the track and reach the back of the pack to achieve the correct race order. First down to last, correct race order, nose to tail. That is the restart condition. The purpose of that unlapping procedure being that once the cars begin getting lapped, doesn't mean they're out of the race. So in the example of Abu Dhabi, when the leader had come round to 8th position at that time, he'd lapped 14th, 13th, 12th, 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th. Next up the road was 7th and probably would have caught him before the end of the race. Okay? So that is what the situation was. The leader's now past 8th, but 8th is still in a race with 7th. And just because then the safety car is deployed, 7th disappears off all the way around the track and links up with the back of the pack. 8th has to remain behind the leader, who is tucked up behind the safety car now. You can't allow a safety incident to completely ruin 8th's chances of challenging in that race. So therefore, before racing resumes, any of the cars that have been lapped, any cars that have been lapped, are required to pass the safety car. And then, safety car should return to the pits at the end of the following lap. The race director does have overriding authority, that being, if he feels it's not safe to resume racing at that point in time, for whatever reason, he can keep the safety car on track. That's his overriding authority over that safety car on the grounds of safety. His other ability to have the overriding authority is if those released lapped cars haven't made it around that track and haven't sufficiently caught the back of that pack to a point where they're left significantly disadvantaged from the pre-accident conditions, then he can keep that safety car lapping on track until they have fully caught the back of the pack. And Massey demonstrated that because he did that 4 times. You 4 people, presenters of the sport, that are there to educate fans, have never done that. You're blaming it on the FIA now. Oh, the FIA need to give us clarity for all of us fans. It's the FIA's fault. But you've been doing the lie-in.
Have the information from that report that is there, put it out into the wider public now. We shouldn't be waiting until the conclusion of an inquiry at the beginning.
Do you know what proper journalism is? Proper journalism, right? When your media outlet isn't funded by billionaire organisations that just pay you to put out the story that benefits them, right? When you're a real journalist, what you do, you dig down and expose the truth. You present things in the way that I'm presenting them. None of you fuckers do that, do you? Because you're corrupt. You work for a corrupt entity that's funded by a billionaire organisation in Liberty Media that contrived the outcome of that event in conjunction with Red Bull. That's what happened. And you won't say it because you're paid to validate it. That is what you are. Corrupt. Every single last one of you.
Of February.
Yeah, do you think scapegoats are going to be made, or are they scapegoats? Do you think Michael Massey, as we talked about before, is going to be the only one who may suffer out of this, Martin?
He might be the sacrificial lamb. What's really important here for the FIA and for Formula 1?
Okay, so we're all corrupt, but we'll just blame it on one guy. What's important then, Martin?
This is not swept under the carpet and just,
Oh, it's important that it's not swept under the carpet. What's happened? When has it ever been satisfactorily resolved? It hasn't, has it? It hasn't. 2 years and a further, 4 months on? It hasn't been resolved. And it's not going to go away.
left for a few weeks and then get overtaken by the new 2022 cars and the tests and what have you. We need to understand what happened and why it won't happen again. And we need to reassure the fans that what they're seeing is for real and genuine, and that they're giving up their free time to watch something that's a genuine competition.
They're giving up their free time. Okay, no, Martin. It's not that people are giving up their free time. They're investing their money. They're paying their hard-earned money to watch this sport by paying their Sky Sports subscription to watch authentic sport, not to be lied to by that broadcaster. They are gambling on the sport. They are betting money on what they perceive to be authentic sport, which is going to have a sporting outcome, okay, which is random to an extent, rather than a fixed outcome. These people that are interested in the sport will invest their money on buying tickets to the event in the belief that they are viewing authentic sport, not a contrivance with a fixed outcome, a manipulated outcome. People invest their money in merchandise from the teams that they support. They support those players, them individuals, them competitors, those teams, because they're under the false impression that what they're viewing is authentic sport. That is where the value is. Those people are less likely to invest in that merchandise if they're feeling that all it is kind of wrestling merchandise, just a contrived show. So that is what people are doing, Martin. They're not just giving up their free time, they're spending money. It's a difference now, isn't it? So when you are party to extracting money from people under false pretense, you're part of the crime, aren't you, Martin?
Competition.
Yeah, and Damon, how damaged do you think the reputation, the integrity of the sport is right now as a result of the actions of the FIA on the night and since?
I think it would have been helpful if they had by now issued something, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's...
How damaged is the sport? I think it would have been helpful. Well, you've not answered the question, have you?
Says, listen, we are continuing with our promise to investigate it and we're in discussions. And I know that there's some sort of big meeting on Friday, which where presumably or it's suggested that Toto is asking for the head of Michael Massey in return for Lewis Rick.
How damaged is the sport? I think it would have been helpful. And there's a meeting on Friday. We've not answered the question yet, Damon. It's like a waffle, isn't it?
Carrying on. I don't know if that's true, but I think we've got some more information on that later. But yeah, so it's all going on. But I think that the FI could put out something now which says where we're at, explains where exactly we're at to appease people. As far as
to appease people, you need to do it to appease people, or you do it for integrity because you do it because it's right. It's the right thing to do. It's not about appeasing people. What took place was entirely wrong. It was fraudulent. It deprived the global audience of a valid ending to a sporting event. It manufactured a winner of a so-called sporting event. It was all entirely wrong, and you are saying, oh, they could have put out a statement to appease people. That's the best you've got to say, is it, Damon Hill? That's the best you've got to say. Now, how much has this damaged the sport, Damon? That was a question.
Reputation globally goes, there's a contradiction here with things like the events that happened in Abu Dhabi is that on the one hand, it's awful. On the other hand, it's absolutely fantastic.
There you go. So how much has it damaged it? Well, there's a contradiction. On the one hand, it's awful. The other, it's great. Why is it great?
Interest in the sport is huge and even increased because of what happened.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? You know, Liberty Media, this media company, these experts in understanding the impact of media and how things trend and how they can attract interest in events and how they can grow the audience. Who'd have thought that they could have come up with a plan that would have increased the interest in the sport?
So we just got to get it right. We can't have races where people just laugh at us, you know. So, and I'm afraid, sadly, Abu Dhabi was one of those.
No, we're not laughing at you. We're outraged. Outraged that you are corrupt. Outraged that you delivered to the planet that. It's sad that there's too many people lack the understanding or the ability to see through your lies, but I'm helping a few with that. But YouTube wants to suppress my videos so that my audience is small, but that's what it is. We'll just have to keep trying other ways, but we will get there.
Yeah. I mean, people have called it farcical. Final word from you, Crofty, before I welcome Johnny back in on that and the integrity of the sport.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, let's just put a bit of detail into who could replace Michael Massey. You need an experienced operator within motorsport.
So we are now going back to pinning it on Massey and the challenge of replacing Michael Massey, the guy that got gifted the job, was kind of handpicked by Charlie Whiting along with another guy, and then just when Charlie Whiting died, Massey got gifted the job. Why? Did he ever look like he was a worthy candidate? Nepotism. If you're part of our boys' club, we'll give you the job. I'm sure there's others that are part of your boys' club that you'll just hand them the job to, rather than give it to people with the ability and who have integrity.
I've seen Eduardo Freitas, the race director for 20 years or so at Le Mans now, as tipped for as a replacement. Well, he actually shadowed Michael Massey for a weekend at a race in Portugal at Portimao. I'm told after that, he said he didn't want the job working.
I don't know, maybe he thought, no, this is too corrupt. Who knows?
Within Formula One. Steve Nielsen is another name that has been tipped. He works as the sporting director at Formula One for Liberty Media.
Well, that should rule him out on that grounds. If you are linked with Liberty Media, you're linked with a corruption.
But another that does not want the job and doesn't want to be working for the FIA. So in terms of get rid of Michael Massey, if that's Toto Wolff's belief, you've got to have someone ready to bring in.
If that's Toto Wolff's belief, this decision that affected all teams, that only Mercedes protested, but let's just say, oh, Mercedes are demanding this, Mercedes are demanding that. Toto Wolff is demanding the head of Michael Massey, otherwise Lewis Hamilton won't come back to the sport. This is what they're saying in this interview, in this presentation, should I say.
And I don't think that person is there as it stands at the moment. What Michael Massey needs really is support, because what happened?
Oh, we need to give him some support. The guy that sat next to him isn't enough. The other 8 people in FIA race control isn't enough. Show us what support he needed in those last 5 laps with that camera that you've got in FIA race control. Show us the pressure that he was under that he capitulated under. Show us the pressure that you were under, Brundle and Crofty, in your commentary booth when you were lying about the sport. Show us the pressure the F1 TV editor was under when he was constructing the narrative that was being fed to the world. Show us the pressure the 4 stewards were under in that corrupt stewards' appeal. Show us the pressure that all of the FIA are under when they corruptly have never addressed this matter and instead produced this report that a 12-year-old child could have written.
happened in Abu Dhabi could have been brewing for some time. He's a man that is overworked, was highly stressed, hadn't had a day off pretty much all.
He was overworked and highly stressed, and that's why he fixed the ending of the season. Hadn't had a day off for a bit. What a load of rubbish. What an absolute load of tosh.
All year, and mistakes were made.
He hadn't had a day off all year. Right, there's a Grand Prix every couple of weeks. So you're telling me in between Grand Prix, he hasn't had a day off? There's a mid-season break often. I can't remember whether there was in 2021. Oh, but he's not had a day off all year. What a load of rubbish.
He's in the heat of the moment. It had been coming for a while.
Thanks, Crofty. Okay, let's bring.
It had been coming for a while. What? It had been coming for a while that he was going to break the rules of the sport and hand the victory to Max Verstappen. That had been coming for a while. Thank you for your valuable insight, Crofty. The main shouty voice of Formula One for over 10 years. Great.
Johnny back in for a final word. Back again to the start here. With regards to Michael Massey, can you see Lewis Hamilton or Mercedes going racing under his watch next season?
Well, I think it's not going to be a comfortable situation, probably for both, to be perfectly honest. I think as a driver, and for Sir Lewis, I think he feels very aggrieved that his championship was taken away, and you would not want, and I would not want, to have the man who made the wrong decision, the wrong call, which then lost me a world championship. I'd be very, very angry if he was allowed back. And I think Mercedes in a very similar way. So, there's a lot of things that need to be dealt with in the right way, especially from the FIA, to make Formula One what we expect it to be fair.
Well, I mean, Lewis has gone off grid since then. Damon, a final word before you go as well. You know what it's like. You suffered in '94 with the coming together of Michael Schumacher and as you felt having the title stolen off you. How difficult did you find it to come back the next season?
Not difficult at all. I wanted to win a championship. Lewis has already won 7. It's slightly different. He's getting to the end of his career.
He's already won 7, so it doesn't matter on the 8th. Oh, he's getting to the end of his career. This is the 3rd season afterwards, and he's going to go to Ferrari next year. So clearly, he's got at least 4 seasons beyond the point he was robbed. If he remains healthy. So he's getting towards the end of his career.
And he may be many years off, but I mean, he's got a lot in the bank, and he might just think.
If you've got a lot in the bank, that means it's okay that the sport can rob you of victory. That's okay, is it? That's a validation, is it?
I've done all I can do, but I'm sure that 8th title is just too tempting. I'm sure he'll want to come back.
Not too tempting. He is an 8-time world champion. He is an 8-time world champion. He was robbed.
And have it and put all this to rest.
Okay, well, he's got 2 years left on his contract. I'm sure all Lewis Hamilton fans will be hoping he'll be lining up on the grid in mid-March. Thanks to Damon. Thanks to Johnny. Martin's going to stay with us. When we come back, though.
Right, that'll do on this one. And we'll see what they say when they come back and who's in the seats below when they come back after the advert. That'll do for this one. Part 8 will be along soon. Cheers.